So this is I decided I would just take this opportunity to have a conversation about what's happening with Afghanistan because we can, and because it's all happening in real time, and I just think it's a really good idea to talk about it, recognizing that most of you don't have an idea, a lot of knowledge about the issue. Very few of you actually do. So what I'm going to do is, the title of the class is called Unplanned Reset. And it's really, in a way, dedicated to people all over the world, including here in the United States, who have, for one reason or another, have had to reset their lives. And part of that reset has meant going to another country or another place and starting over. And so we're going to start here with the three of you. We have three volunteers, and it is, you can turn your mics on. And what's your name?
Abdurrahman, but people call me Abdul.
Abdul?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you are?
Sophia Brewer.
Sophia. And?
I'm Isabel.
Isabel. Isabel or Isabella?
Isabel.
So Isabel, let me start with you. When someone says Afghanistan, what comes to mind?
I honestly think of war, and I'm not too familiar with Afghanistan, but from what I've heard, there's a lot of war over there and fighting.
So just war?
Yeah.
Okay. Sophia, how about you?
I mainly think of people in need, So, people who need housing, resources, food, energy, and they don't have access to it. Sorry.
So people who are in need in some way. Abdul, how about you?
Third world country, that's what I think about. Heroin.
Third world country.
Heroin, war.
Or terrorism.
Yeah,
war.
terrorism and all of that. I mean, some people there are good. I mean, they come and work in Saudi Arabia, and we meet them. They're really good people.
Yep. So you're from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And Sophia, what's your background?
I'm half Mexican, half white.
Half Mexican, half white. And here in the United States, where do you live?
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo. And Isabel?
I'm from Hershey, PA.
Hershey, PA. Okay. Well, let me say a few things. Let me just say a few things about how it is that we got here, that I got here, and I think this will be, first off, the first thing I want to say to the three of you. So let me really just talk to the three of you for a moment. This map up here, Jeff, if you could put the map up. When we think about places like, other people think about the United States, or we think about Mexico, or we think about Saudi Arabia, and it's just this place that it's just a geographic, some kind of landmass of some sort, right? But the truth is, there are provinces and cities and city blocks and neighborhoods and so on. It's not just this place. There are people who are living their lives day to day to day, just like everywhere else in the world. And so, they have, for example, can you go to the next slide? Traffic, right? Here's a shot. Here's a shot of Kabul. Look at the traffic. I mean, this is tremendous, right? I mean, just like every other city in the world, right? Like Mexico City. Maybe not Riyadh, I don't know. Do you have traffic like this in Saudi? Do you have traffic like this in Saudi?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, it get this bad sometimes,
Okay,
but not.
all right. So here, next slide. So here's a shopping mall in Kabul City. So you said third world, and you said you thought about third world and the less developed world, and you think about poverty and people in need, and you think about war. But here's a shopping mall in Kabul, right? So that looks like a shopping mall that would be here in the United States. It looks like a shopping mall elsewhere in the Middle East, right? Like in Doha or in Dubai or in Kuwait City. And so let me walk you through a little bit about how I got involved in Afghanistan. So we have this dialogue project, and you in this class, you're going to be having 6 different conversations that are 90 minutes long, and they're facilitated by people at World in Conversation. And at some point, we started doing international dialogues. We've even done dialogues with students in Saudi Arabia. And at some point in time, somebody reached out to us from NATO, and his name is Serge, and you're going to meet him in a few minutes. And he said, hey, can we talk about this issue of civilians in conflict? And, we're trying to develop some initiatives that would help reduce civilian casualties in conflict zones and when we deployed NATO soldiers. And so my wife and I had a conversation with him, and then one thing led to another, and before we knew it, we were applying for a grant to do work in Afghanistan so that we would put NATO soldiers and NATO cadets around the alliance, including in the United States, in conversation with citizens in conflict areas, and we chose Afghanistan. So I found a partner, and my partner, his name is Rafi, and we submitted this grant, and we were successful. And so we started having, here's a next slide, here's an example of what it would look like. These were soldiers from the Netherlands, from an academy in the Netherlands, and they're in conversation with students at the bottom left of that photo. Those are students from Herat, Afghanistan, and in the bottom right, those are facilitators here in Pond Lab at Penn State. And the idea was to get the soldiers, future officers here in the Dutch army, to have conversations with Afghans so that when they deploy, when they land on the ground in a conflict area, they humanize Afghans. They see them in a way. They have a better understanding of how to interact with them. So as with the end goal of understanding more the thinking, ideology, and behavior of Afghan citizens to reduce conflict and reduce really not just conflict, but violence. And also so that Afghans would understand the NATO soldiers so that they would have a better way of interpreting the actions and thinking of the soldiers. So that would reduce the potential for violence against soldiers, okay? So we did this initiative. So we had to develop an Afghan team. Show the next slide. This is a photo of some of the folks on the World in Conversation team with all of our Afghans. And we had a training. This was, I think, over in New Delhi. And here is, next slide, this is one of our coordinators in Afghanistan. And this man here, he just got out. He is arriving in the Netherlands. He's one of the people who we were able to get out of Afghanistan 2 days ago during class time. His name is Mr. Rashidi. He is, I define him, this man right here. My friends, I have traveled the world. I have met thousands and thousands of human beings and some really, really good human beings. This man here, I always introduce him as the kindest, gentlest, most loving human being I have ever met in my life. And that's him, right inside the airport in Kabul, after having got in to take the trip to Europe. This next slide, if you see at the top where the arrow is, that's a woman who works for us. And if all of this hadn't come down in Afghanistan, you would meet her in some of the dialogues that you would have. And she's on the wall there. And what you don't see is, see all those people at the bottom? They're in waist-high water. And it's basically, in a way, sewage water. And it goes all around this part of the airport. And they had to stand in the water and get the attention of the soldiers on the wall, the Dutch soldiers on the wall, so that they could let the Dutch soldiers know that, hey, they're here. They have permission to fly on the next flight out. Please bring us up the other side of the wall. Look at our papers. Let you see that we are on the list, and you bring us inside the airport. And so that is her showing them her papers and waiting then for the other members of our team to do the same. And there are thousands and thousands of Afghans. And it was just incredibly difficult. And I can't even begin to say the process. Right during class, this was happening right here. She's on that wall right during our class on Tuesday. So this was going on the whole time. Really just, okay, next slide, Jeff. So we have a couple more guests here. part of the team here at Penn State included this gentleman right here. He's a retired colonel in the U.S. Army. His name's Rich Gary. And he was head of ROTC here at Penn State for 3 years. And he was also part of this extraction team with Serge, who you will meet in a second, I'll show you, and myself and Rich. We spent 4 to 5 days, day and night, just endlessly trying to figure things out to get these folks and other folks with Rich to the final moment, get them out of Afghanistan. And what's notable about Rich, next slide, is that Rich did, I think he can tell us, 7 tours in Afghanistan. This is him. You can see the red arrow that last shot was him in Afghanistan. The red arrow, this is him at a meeting with Afghan soldiers and American soldiers. Next slide is a picture of Rafi, who is my partner on this project, co-directed the entire project with my wife and myself. And on the far side, the right side of the screen is Serge Dadepo. And Serge Dadepo works at NATO, and then he became part of this piece here, this group, okay? The next slide is, this is my partner, Rafi. And Rafi and I became really, really close. And Rafi was being sought by the Taliban, and if we had not gotten him out of Afghanistan, he would surely have been killed. And that's his daughter, Arwan. And it's a cool photo, right? And next slide. These are both of his daughters. This is what motivated me day and night for the past 3 weeks to do whatever I could to get him out. And in this class, I should tell you, last fall's version of Social 19, we took a collection and raised money to buy him, Rafi, a protective vest that he could wear under his clothes, and we shipped it over to him because those 2 young girls should not have to grow up without a father because he was doing good work on behalf of other human beings, not only in Afghanistan, but other places in the world. And here is a photo of Rafi speaking in class, right here, right where the 2 of you are sitting. And he came several times and spoke in Social 19. Here's another photo of Rafi and Rich and Serge all together speaking in class one day. And then this next photo is of Rafi this morning at a hotel in Brussels in safety. And it's big. So, what I would like to do is bring everybody on the screen. And I'm assuming Rafi is still not here, right? Okay. We were waiting for Rafi to join us, and for some reason he has not. And we have, this is our friends Serge and Rich. Serge and Rich. Are you guys there? You got your mics on?
Yeah.
Awesome. You can hear us pretty clearly?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, well, welcome back to Social 119. It's really great. Really great to have you. We are waiting to see if Rafi is going to join, but I want to talk to the 2 of you. Serge, you were a soldier in the Belgian army, and you served in Kosovo. Am I right? Yeah.
Yugoslavia, Croatia.
Yep. And Rich, you were in Afghanistan how many times?
5 times Afghanistan, twice to Iraq.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, let me ask you all, just see these 2 guys here, right? You can look right in here. What question would you have for them? What question would you have? So let me just ask, first off, what question? Let's see if you have one before we start talking. For these 2 guys. Go ahead, Abdul.
What was their first impression when they arrived there?
Their first impression of?
Yeah, would it be like us, like, people in need, or was it like it's going to be dangerous and really bad? Is it?
Why don't we ask that to Rich? starting out. What was your first impression of Afghans when you arrived in your first tour?
Yeah, unfortunately, the first time I arrived there back in 2002, I had no understanding. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no understanding of the culture, the Afghan people. I read one book about Afghanistan in the days preceding my deployment. And I just didn't know anything about them. I immediately, tried to apply my value system, my culture, how I understood other people in my limited experience, only being in the United States onto them. And I initially thought, this is just a strange place, such a strange people. How will I don't understand them because I didn't know anything about their culture. And, I was very naive in my understanding and what I thought about the people of Afghanistan. And I learned over time, and over that year, I learned a lot about the people. But I was very naive when I first got off the plane. I like you guys, I didn't know anything. I knew that they had, were constantly been at war. Everybody said, they've been at war for 1,000 years, and that's all they know is fighting. And it's a third world country, and they don't even have running water over there. And I said, man, I figured it was like landing on the moon. But it's not. I mean, it's the people there are incredible.
Before we go there, let's see. Does anybody have a question? Yep, go ahead. Look right in here.
What drives you to pursue such a difficult path in life?
And then, is this for Rich or for both of them?
Both of them. Either.
Well, Serge, why don't you start with that? What drives you to do all the work? Can I just say something about these two guys right here? First off, I don't think Rich. I'm going to just turn to my class. I don't think these two guys haven't slept for the past 3 nights, and I don't think Rich slept at all last night because Rich was still trying to help other families out of Afghanistan. And so these two guys are two of the heroes, really. I mean, this is amazing. Serge, why don't you answer that? What drives you?
Yeah, so I decided to join the military when I was 14 years old, and the why you cannot really explain because it's really it's a gut feeling, it's a drive. But I think at that age, it's mainly driven by stereotypes about Hollywood and the military and heroism, idealism, and sacrifice and patriotism. All of that, I think, is what was driving me at that time. And of course, much later now, I say that's stupid. That should not be that. But I think this is what it was. And we can elaborate a lot of it. But what do you know at that age, except what you see on the TV and you the military recruit a lot of young men because at that age you don't think with your cortex. You think you don't think. Right, and that now I don't regret anything, but I think it's not a reasonable decision. As you say, how do you go in that difficult path? Because we all have that thing, we do risky sports. Why? Because we are driven to do that by some kind of instinct. And so I wanted to be a hero, right? And they were telling me that's crazy. People get harmed. It's tough. You might be killed. I said, this is what I want, not to be killed, no, to be a person going through harshness. And sacrifice to come back and say I've done something great for the rest of the world, and I mean that's not reasonable at all.
Hey, Rich, how about let me just ask you. I'm gonna follow Sophia's question for you. Last night, you were still trying to get a family. All this morning, you were trying to get them out. I mean. Tell us kind of what happened. They were near the airport. They were in hiding. I was following all your text messages. Give the class kind of a sense of that, just that final family that you were trying to say.
Yeah. So we had that final family that was still there. They had been a couple kilometers from the airport for the last couple of days. This is a family that has 5 people. It's a husband, wife, a son that's 4, a son that's 2, and a father that is 74. So that's a tough group. They're not very mobile. They don't move fast. So we were trying to get them to the gate at the right time. We had all their paperwork. We had to wait for their immigration visa to be approved. And that really didn't happen until yesterday morning, where we knew that they were on a list. We didn't want to send them to the gate and get them into the gate, and then they would be turned away if their paperwork wasn't straight, if they weren't on the list. So we had to wait for that to happen. So we finally got them, moving and up to the gate. They couldn't get anywhere near it. And we knew from the previous nights working with the other families that this sewage filled ditch was there, and that if they got in the ditch, they could kind of bypass a lot of the crowd and get up near the gate. And they were going to the Abbey gate, which is right down from the gate that the other families used the other night. And the crowd swell and move, and they got up to the gate, and then the Taliban showed up, and they were trying to push people away from the gate, and they were beating people with whips and rubber hoses and chains. And this family fled from the gate after being there for 5 or 6 hours. They fled, and then the Taliban were shooting at them. So they were hiding in a ditch about 500 meters away behind a mosque, and they're texting us. We're talking to them the whole time, and they're asking, what should we do? What should we do? And we're talking to people by text on the inside, trying to get them to come out and rescue this family. And the situation was such that they could not. And so for 16 hours, we tried to get this family back up to the gate, and they did. It eventually came back out of the ditch and back up in the ditch, and they got to the Abbey gate, and they waited there for another 7 or 8 hours, and they could just not get past the crowds to get their paperwork looked at. And then sometime this morning, about 6 o'clock this morning, 5 o'clock this morning, they said, we have to go. We can't do it anymore. The children are exhausted and scared, and we're whooped. We can't be there anymore. And I, was encouraging them to stay. I said, don't leave. This is your only shot. The gates are going to close, a few hours from now. You have to stay at the Abbey gate. And they insisted that they could not. And I was upset. I knew they were, having difficulty, but I also thought if they didn't seize on that opportunity and stay at the Abbey gate and get in the Abbey gate, that they might not get out of Afghanistan. Now, luckily, the terrible events that happened today, luckily they were not at the Abbey gate today when the suicide bombs went off that killed so many people. So I'm thankful for that. But there were a lot of people there, and they had just been there. And so now they are back in hiding in Kabul, and we're trying to talk about what other options we have, because we don't believe that the airport is an option anymore for this family. They're not high enough on the priority list. So those 2 little kids and that husband and wife, we're gonna continue to work to try to get them to safety through another means, hopefully.
So Rich, so you don't know this family, right? You've never met them. They just reached out to you, and am I right?
I do not know them personally. I was a friend of mine, a very close personal friend of mine, reached out to me and said, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help this family. I heard you were helping other families. Can you help them? So I don't know them personally, but I've certainly become very acquainted with them over the last 7 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, Isabel, how about you? What comes to mind when you hear, here are these 2 people, this American and this Belgian who lives in the United States. Comes to mind?
As I was listening to them talk, I was wondering, what's the most rewarding experience, or what's the most rewarding part about all this? It seems like it's so much danger, and there's so much stress involved with this job. What moment, what's the moment where you feel like it's all worth it in this situation? Or is there ever a moment where you're thinking it's not worth all this stress?
Yeah. So there's a good one. For you, Serge, right? What's the, when last night we were talking and you said, I feel like I just need to be with everyone and just give and receive hugs from everyone, right? What's the most rewarding piece for you? What is it?
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely for me, but I heard that from many other military, is the satisfaction, the meaning of doing something that is useful to other people. I think I hear that very often. It definitely is a driver for me, and it's still the idealistic young boy speaking. But there's a thing, you want to be to be feeling that you do something for society, and the best way, definitely, if you save somebody. That's probably the best thing, and that's what we did. But you can get also that from your let's say brothers and sisters in arms, because I would say it's not that you are saving people every day, but the fact that in the harshness you are helping the people who are next to you, and it's often the other military working with you. That this is to me what provides the most satisfaction. Now, I cannot resist to tell you that this is also what would give you the worst frustration, when you get the opposite, when the people around you are actually not happy with you being there for whatever reason. So you can get the best feedback from helping people and getting their gratitude. But if it fails for whatever reason and you get the opposite, it's the worst thing that you can get. So I think that social negative feedback is also the worst thing, and I think it might apply to everyone in any situation.
Okay, I have a question for the two of you. So here are this classroom full of young people from not only here in the United States, but from many parts of the world. And we've got this big humanitarian crisis, right? And a lot of people will say, why are we still there? Why are we helping? Or why are we doing this? And there's a lot of just questioning because people don't know. Help us to frame in a way, help us to understand maybe what's happening among Afghans. And so, frame it from not only why you do this, but, for both of you, why you have other people in your work, Rich, you in the military, because, many people have this idea that, there are people in militaries, they only exist to go out and kill people and kill bad guys or whatever it is, right? But help us to frame what it is that you think it would be good if we knew. What do we need to know, or what about Afghanistan and Afghan people?
Yeah, I'll take that one on for a sec, Sam. Like Serge, I think, the first time I went to Afghanistan, I think I was 29 or 30 years old, and I was still like Serge, right? I was very idealistic. I had patriotism, and coursing through my veins, and I was, it was post 9/11. And I was I wanted to be John Wayne. I wanted to be the hero. I was seeking out the adventure. I was going to go there and right wrongs. And that's not what I ended up doing. I mean, yes, there were times when we had to do things that were lethal to bad guys, but the things that are most rewarding for me and the things that I appreciated the most was the things that consumed most of my time was working with the people of Afghanistan. And I mean, everything from helping them dig wells to, we built schools and we got school supplies. I mean, the high school that I went to, sent thousands of dollars worth of school supplies so the little village I was living in could have a school. And we used to walk down there in the morning when we first got there to escort the little girls and boys to school because we were worried about the Taliban would not let them do that. And then after a while, we didn't have to escort them anymore because the people in the town were escorting them because they wanted the girls and boys to have education. And, just little wins like that, everything from medical clinics to education to, I secured a provincial election back in 2014. And seeing all the women that were there to vote. And I know going back to 2004 when I was there, that would never have happened, that there was no women that voted because they didn't feel comfortable doing so, but so many did in 2014. And I said, that's progress. We made progress. We were doing great things. And a lot of that that's what I really found rewarding about my many years in Afghanistan was the progress that we made and the things that I used to, because we had soldiers that were killed, and I used to, give solace, I think, to some of their families and say, look at the progress that your son or daughter helped make. And now over the last couple of weeks, that feels like that has gone away. So the work over the last week has been to try to salvage some of that. I think that's because a lot of that feels lost, so those soldiers there, and we've done nothing. We're just helping people. Serge and I, we've coordinated things, but those people at the airport, right? Those soldiers at the airport, they, in my mind, have saved a generation of Afghans. Is it worth it? Is it worth the cost of what happened today, where 12 soldiers were killed? You can't put a math equation against this. Would we sacrifice 12 people to cure cancer? Well, sure, maybe, probably it makes sense, right? 12 people. Well, we saved a generation of Afghans. Those soldiers there, they're doing this Herculean effort to remove these threatened Afghans, these endangered Afghans, and who knows what's going to happen, right? Their children and their children's children that never would have had an opportunity will now, in the Netherlands, in the United States, and in Belgium and France, they'll grow up and they'll be doctors, and they'll be lawyers, and they'll be artists, and they'll be musicians, and they'll vote, and they'll do things because they were salvaged this week from a terrible circumstance. And my hope is that maybe in the future, maybe a decade, maybe 5 years, that that little piece of salvation that we provided for just a short period of time, unfortunately, that piece, that the people there will maybe remember that, and then maybe they will resist the oppressive things that are happening with the Taliban regime right now, and maybe they will work to get back to where we were. But that's, this week has been for me is kind of trying to salvage some of that stuff that I feel like I've lost over the last couple of weeks that we worked so hard for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, Abdul has a question.
My question is, what did you learn that the rest of the people should know from interacting with the Afghan people?
Yeah, good question. What have you guys learned? You've interacted with lots of Afghans, right? Like, what have you learned about people? Because once again, there's this way in which sometimes when we have a group of people that have been in some ways just sort of caricatured, because there's no other way to see it. They've always been at war, and they've always this, and they've always that. But you guys have engaged people up close. What have you learned about them, about their culture, that we should know? Serge, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Yes, and I will get you a little bit back in time, guys, because I'm older. So I was deploying for the first time in those kind of situations in '92 for the war in former Yugoslavia. And basically what I learned there totally applied to Afghanistan, and I think it applies everywhere. People are people. The stereotype we put on their forehead for whatever reason actually does not apply. They are not such a thing as totally good guys and totally bad guys. People are good in some circumstances and bad in some circumstances. And of course, those are concepts that are subjective. But in Yugoslavia, basically it was a slightly different situation from Afghanistan, because there it was three factions fighting one another. So it was not that they'd be good or bad. They all have their own view of the country. They don't agree, they fight. In the middle of that, you have the population that suffers, and then you drop on it a ton of military from I don't know how many nations. So you have really a cultural melting pot. And what I learned already early on there is those people are all the same. They all have a family. They all have to figure out how they will survive one more day. For some, it might be easier. And if you put them in the, let's say, correct environment, they will be doing great things. But if you put them in the really wrong system, they actually end up doing what you might say a bad thing. And so this decision of doing right or wrong, I mean, it's a nice story, but I think it's really a tale. And all the Afghans, wherever side they are, if you provide them with the right environment, they will just not do harm. Even and actually most of them are not doing any harm, but even evildoers, you can change that. And I mean, what you try to create a better environment, but you see that it's extremely difficult, and most of the time we fail in that. And that's probably the lesson that everyone has actually the will to be good, but might not have a choice in the environment where they live or where they were born.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Serge. Hey, Rich, you you had many opportunities to be in the homes of Afghans and to share tea with them. You probably had an endless supply of tea in Afghan homes. So think about you as the young soldier going over there, very naive, very uninformed, and your first trip, and then how you were on your final trip and how you are today. What have you learned about Afghans that the rest of us should know?
Yeah, I think this is something I learned in Afghanistan, but it doesn't necessarily apply to just Afghans. That first trip, I remember, we were looking for the Taliban. We wanted to know who the Taliban were. That's what we were sent there to do, to eliminate the Taliban. And I went into a village one day and I asked the village elder, I said, hey, I want to know who here is Taliban or who here supported the Taliban, because we want to arrest them with the Afghan National Security Forces. We want to know who those guys were, who supported the Taliban. He said, well, I guess you're going to have to arrest me. And I said, I don't understand. What do you mean? Why would I need to arrest you? And he said, well, because when the Russians were here, I was with the Russians. And when the Taliban were here, I was with the Taliban. And now you are here, and so I am with you. He said, I want to survive. I want to have my family. I want to protect my family. I want to raise some crops, and I want to just enjoy my life. And if I have to be with the guy who's here, who's in charge, then that's where I will be. And that really took me back, right? Like Serge said, we're all very common, right? People just want to be happy. They want to survive. They want to have a family. They want to do the things that are enjoyable to them. And that transcends nations and tribes and geography. And I used to tell my soldiers, everybody has a story. You have to learn that story to understand where it all fits together. You can't judge anybody and say, he's a bad guy, he's a good guy, he's not worth our time, until you can learn their story. And that's what I learned in 5 years in Afghanistan and a couple of years in Iraq and the other places I've been, is that everybody has a story, and you can't truly appreciate them or their culture or where they fit until you understand that story. And you have to just sit down and talk to them and listen to it and hear their story. And in Afghanistan, you hear that story over a lot of tea, over a lot of time, and they're all great stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I've learned from
same thing, guys. But in Yugoslavia, they don't drink tea.
What's that, Serge?
Same thing everywhere, but in Yugoslavia, they don't drink tea.
Yeah. Coffee or tea well, it's what
Coffee,
we share, right?
yeah.
And the one thing that I have learned, I will say, is is generosity. It's just incredible generosity from Afghans. Like, people are people, what you said, Serge, all over the world. And all over the world, people are very generous, actually.
Yes, and especially the simple people,
Yeah.
Those who are not high-ranking and stuff are really not looking for any kind of mess and are really willing to share the little that they have.
Well, listen, I think I think we'll cut here. If we could just, it's really unfortunate what happened at the airport. I mean, there was a bombing. I haven't had a chance to really see the news, but I know there was a bombing and 12 soldiers were killed. U.S. soldiers, I think, and dozens of Afghan civilians. And once again, all of the people that we were working on our team, had this happened a couple days ago, or even a couple days ago, it could have been the people that we were working with, but it's people that other people were working with, all human beings, seeking shelter and seeking something better. Yeah. And one of the things that I often say, Rich, when you said what you said about the soldiers that are there, I often have this idea that the thing that I say that so many people, what I've experienced, people who join the military are actually social workers. They just carry a gun. And people want to make the world better and safe for other people and people they don't know. So, yeah, maybe any final word from either of you? Something that you thought of? Do one of you have a final question that you'd like to ask?
I guess I was just thinking, as you guys were speaking, is it ever really hard to emotionally detach yourself from a situation, in moments where, you're seeing families being ripped apart from each other and people being killed. In moments where you need to emotionally detach yourself from a situation, is it really hard to, or do you find that it's better to be emotionally invested in situations?
So how about, that's a really good question. How about will each of you take just 30 seconds on this one, and I'm going to reframe it. How do you attach yourselves and detach yourselves at the same time? How do you dig in? And I think this is a really good question for many of us in this room, because we want to get involved, but we're afraid to get involved, and we're afraid of our attaching ourselves. How do you do it? How do you jump in and then pull yourself out and hold it together and then go back? So I don't think you can be emotionally detached. It's such a complex problem that pulls at your emotions, right? It's literally talking about people's lives and their future and those little kids, right? How do you not get emotional about that? It's not necessarily a detachment, but you have to focus on the mission or the task at hand. So, like that one family that I still have that's in there, they're in very dire straits right now. And that can be emotional, but that sometimes you have to put your emotions aside to continue to do the work that you need to do, because it's important work. And you can't let the emotions preclude you from getting things done, I guess. But it doesn't mean that even though you're not being emotional, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have an emotional aspect. Yeah. Serge, final thought.
That's one of the most difficult things humans have to do, and not only in the military profession, in any profession, because it might even be more important in the medical domain. Or I'm familiar with the psychotherapy, where you have to help people, but if you get too close to them, since you see so much terrible stories and so many people, especially in the medical field, people dying in your arms. If those guys really develop that distance, they cannot get very close to their patients. Now, for the military, there are many procedures in place to help the military don't get too close to the people. But at the same time, we are requested to do it, and that's extremely difficult. I think, and I'm not the only one, that a lot of causes to military PTSD is that the emotional injury you get when the people you care for are in trouble and you feel guilty for it. And that's extremely difficult. I don't have a recipe. I'm actually bad at it.
Serge and Rich, thank you. Thanks for joining. And yeah, just thanks. Thanks for being, thanks for joining, man. Thanks for everything you've done these past few weeks. It's striking, it's notable, and it matters. So, thank you. All right. Yeah. All right. So we have two more guests, and one guest is Benjamin. And Benjamin, Sheffy, we're gonna use your video. Am I correct? One guest is. Hey, can we show that last slide? Is that possible? And to the class. And before we invite the two of you on, this is a photo of our team I think we were in Mumbai. And a lot of these folks left Afghanistan in the past couple days. And we're in a great deal of danger because of their work that they did with us. And this is Sheffy here with her daughter. And that's the woman in the front is the one that was standing on the wall, and the guy in the back is the kindest, gentlest soul I've ever met. And so Sheffy is here. How you doing, Chef?
Hi, I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Nice to have you here. And we have another guest. And this other guest is somebody that we've worked with many times who is still in Afghanistan and did not get out. And his name is Benjamin. So we'll bring him. He's not turning his video on because of his work. Because he decided to stay, he's still in danger, and he will continue to be. And we don't want to jeopardize that. And so he is in Kabul. And we're going to talk to him. And Sheffy's going to have a conversation with him. So if we can just bring the two of them onto the screen. And JD, you can take that down. So Benjamin, are you there?
Hey, Dr. Richards. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, nice to see
Can
you.
you hear me?
Hey, we don't see your photo. Yeah. Yeah, we can't? Okay, that's good. Well, we see you. So listen, Sheffy, what do you got? Tell us something about Benjamin. By the way, Sheffy is the Global Dialogues Manager for World in Conversation, and she has been working with the Afghan team for the past 8 years, and she has the deepest connection to everybody who was in those photos. So, hey, Chef.
Yeah. Hi. It's I actually found a bracelet that Benjamin gave to me in 2017. So we can't see you, but you are here. Just wanted to let the class know. Like Sam said, I've been doing this for a while. When I joined the Global Programs team back in 2013, it was a job, and now it's personal. So Benjamin, we met as colleagues, and fast forward to 2021. Whenever I send him a message on WhatsApp, I say, "Hey, brother, how are you doing, brother?" So it's personal, and I have a brother in Afghanistan. So if somebody asked any of you to introduce your brother or sister, that would be a difficult task. Between the stories, the memories, etc., it's just where do you even begin? There's just so much to say. So I'll share what I want everyone to know about him. And I've known him before he was a father or a husband. So he is selfless. He is funny. He is hardworking. He is fair and just. He's a skilled dialogue facilitator. He is a wonderful husband, father, and son. And he's still in Afghanistan. He didn't get out. So that breaks my heart. Are you here, Benjamin?
Yes, I'm here, Shafi.
Yeah. It's just saying it breaks my heart that you did not get out, and ultimately it was a decision that you made. Can you share more about all the factors that went into making a life-changing decision?
Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. Everyone knows about the current situation in Afghanistan right now, the chaotic situation that we are having right now. So a lot of friends, families, my closest friends, all left Afghanistan. And as Shafi said, I have a wife, a 2-year-old daughter, and my mom. We are still at home. We are living inside the Taliban, among the Taliban. So I chose not to leave Afghanistan. And that's because of, the culture that we have in Afghanistan. People are very close to each other. People have relationships, and people are dependent on each other very much. I think that's very different from that of other countries. And although that's a part of our culture, but thousands of people left their moms and dads. And, it was the days when people were leaving, it was like, we have heard the word resurrection, but we have seen it with our own eyes. We have touched it. And it was difficult for everyone to decide.
Can you describe more of that word, resurrection? Like what do you see around you? What should we understand about what you see?
Yeah, that's a word which describes a situation when people do not care about each other and everyone's trying to save their own life. Fathers do not care about their children. Children do not care about their fathers, about their parents. So brother doesn't care about his brother, and a sister doesn't care about her brother. That's a day when everyone's running around, and they do not know what to do, how to save their life. They're just trying and striving to save their own life. And it's a day when you cannot decide correctly. You cannot decide right. So it was the day that we have seen in Afghanistan, and still we are seeing.
Yeah.
And so I chose to stay and do not leave my mom because, I was eligible to leave Afghanistan.
Yes,
and
yes, you were.
Like other friends, like other colleagues. But because of the dependency that I have, on my mom, and my mom has on me. Although my mom was crying and saying, "Hey, you have to leave. You're at risk. You have to leave, and you don't have to think about me. I will be here. I'll stay here, and somebody will help me to survive." I said, "No."
Hey, brother, 1 second. Hold on.
Yeah.
I just want to share something that you messaged me when you were making that decision. I have it up right now. You said, "I couldn't see myself living in Europe or US, but my mother alone under the Taliban. So I chose to either live together or die together. Let the fate bring whatever it might."
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And you saw everybody leave, like the team that we worked with. You saw the good messages, the happy endings that they were getting for now. What was that like?
Well, when when I heard that my closest family, like my sisters, are living with their husbands and their children, I started to cry a lot. I remember my mom was insisting that I have the lunch with them, but I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat at all because before when we set the food table, many gathered around, and we were having the dinner, the lunch with joy and laughter, and I was listening to the sound of my nieces playing in the yard, playing at home in the rooms, and I loved them a lot. I love kids. I love them a lot. They were the only reason and the hope that I could smile, laugh, I could work, and I could live with my family.
So, Benjamin, are you still there? Shafi?
I asked something before I
Wait,
talked.
hang on, we lost.
Okay.
Go ahead, say that again, whatever it was.
I wasn't sure if I was interrupting you, Sam. Were you gonna ask
No.
something?
Um,
Okay.
No, go ahead, Chef.
Benjamin, how's your mom right now? Can you just describe a little bit about what's happening around you? Like, what are conversations you're having with your mom right now?
Yeah. First of all, my mom was too worried about one of our son-in-law, my sister's husband, because she was really in danger. And she was insisting that they leave Afghanistan as soon as possible. She's trying to save others, and she's trying to sacrifice herself for her children. And she says that I'm not feeling lonely. All I want is that you have a good life and that you are not in danger anymore. So she was insisting a lot that I should leave too, but I didn't. If I left, and if I was living, in Europe or maybe in America or Canada, then I was physically there, but mentally I would be, in Afghanistan with my mother. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We have a question. Sophia would like. You have a question, Sophia?
Yeah, I do. For Benjamin, I understand that, or I suppose I don't understand at all. What you're going through right now is more so survival rather than life, and those are two very different things. And it was mentioned that you're a father, and you're also an uncle. You have nieces. Do the children fully grasp what's happening? Like, are they going to lose part of their childhood because of this, or are you able to maintain that for them?
Yeah, of course. Not only my nieces, not only my daughter, but everyone around, all children I know, they are just talking about Taliban. They are saying, hey, are the Taliban going to kill us? They are saying, are the Taliban on the streets? Can I go to school? Can I go to the market? What are they going to do to us? So
what are your answers? What do you say back to them?
We say no. We say no. They're not going to kill us. Even the night when they took the city, it was it was a severe clash. Bombs, RPGs. Even one of the RPGs hit our home, and the children, we were all around each other. We were together before they left. So the children were screaming and crying. And my mom said, hey, they're not just, it's a firework. They're having celebration and they are outside because they want to celebrate it. It's not anything to hurt you. And then the children would stop crying and they would say, okay, we are not afraid because it's a firework. And, there is maybe something like a marriage party, and they are firing in the sky, so
Yeah.
nothing is dangerous.
So you're trying to now make them realize the danger that they're in.
Yeah, and even not for these children right now, these days, even my children, my childhood, it was, I experienced the Taliban regime when I was a child. So this is not the first time. This is the second time. So I know how they are, who they are, and
this is not what you imagined for your
yeah.
kids. This is not something you ever, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, was this even something you ever thought would happen with your kids?
You mean in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm, too much worried about, that they ban females from going to schools and from getting an education. That's something that, gives me the most pain. And every time when I look at my daughter, because she's 2 years old and she doesn't know anything, when I look at her playing around at home, I just start to cry secretly so that no one sees me, because I'm not sure of her future. And she is happy because she is an innocent, child, and she doesn't know what's going to happen in the future.
Wow.
Thanks for Benjamin. Thank you for your words. I mean, as I'm here in class, I'm putting myself in your shoes, and it just really shakes me, actually. And we have your photo up on the screen now, by the way. Isabel, you had a question.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, what gives you hope in this situation? Like, when you are going through all this, where do you look to get your hope from? And
actually, we had hope before the Taliban take over the country. We had a lot of hopes, Even the hour before they entered the city, everyone had hope. Everyone hoped that it's a game. Everyone hoped that the NATO, USA, and all the allied forces will help Afghanistan get out of this situation. And everyone was, hoping that their soldiers, their planes, the military planes will bomb the Taliban, and they will, stand on their way and prevent them from getting into the cities. But we saw that they entered the cities, they took all over Afghanistan, and, nobody fought with them. And, there is something that it's in my heart. It's in my heart, and I want to share it with you. Maybe you did not hear. Maybe the media, the big media, did not share the reality. The Afghan forces, they were very brave. The Afghan soldiers, the Afghan special forces, they were very brave. They were ordered to surrender. They were ordered to back up and to, put down their weapons and do not defend against the Taliban. That's the reality. And the media around the world, they never shared the reality that there are resistant forces, that there are people who rose against the Taliban, and they took up arms to fight besides the NATO forces, beside the Afghan forces, and help them, fight the terrorism. But they were ordered to back up and to surrender and to hand over all the equipment that they have to the Taliban. So this is the reality that I want everyone, all nations, to know, that they did not surrender at their own will. They were ordered to surrender.
Hey, Benjamin, so you're in Kabul now, right? So
Right.
yeah, you live in Kabul.
Yeah.
Maybe just well, first, Sheffy, do you have another before I ask something? Do you
Yeah.
have a question?
I do. Um, I really, I really wanted to know what he is afraid of. Not so, Benjamin. I'm just talking to you. Like when you think about the next day and then the next day, like what are the daily fears? Not even like on a large like big level, just even the daily fears that you have.
Well, the daily fear would be that my wife, maybe my mother, cannot get out of home, and that they will be, strictly forbidden from getting an education, and that there is not enough work and job employment, and that we are like before. I wanted to share what I had experienced before when the Taliban were in Afghanistan, because that was, that was the toughest experience, the dark days. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of things that maybe some people do not, see them in their dreams. I've seen people hanging from their feet on the city crossroads and squares. I've seen people being whipped. I've seen people being killed in Afghanistan by the Taliban. And yeah, that's difficult. But also an answer to the previous question, what makes us hopeful is that this time, maybe the world is with us. The generation has changed a lot. People are educated, and they cannot repeat their mistakes. Maybe they have, maybe they will change a little bit as they claim. They claim that we have changed. They claim that we want,
Wow. I was
done.
just gonna ask you that. I was literally just about to ask
But
you.
Sheffy, before you do though, one of our students has a question.
Hi, Benjamin. I'm Harsh. And firstly, thank you so much for sharing all your insights. I just wanted to ask you, how do you generally spend your nights? Like, how does your family cope up with everything that's going on when you don't know if you have a future tomorrow or not?
Well, we just sleep every night and wake up every mornings, just with the hope that everything will change. And yeah, I know why you asked it. Sometimes, I cannot sleep till morning because I'm afraid that somebody will, climb up our house wall and comes for me because of having done, a lot of things, like having worked for, for females in Afghanistan, because I studied computer science and I worked, to empower young Afghan females to learn how to code, how to program, do programming, how to, make video games, mobile apps, and, create websites. So that's a part of my fear.
Yeah, thank you. I feel that. Does anybody, I have the microphone. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask? Anybody in the class? Hang on, we have one. Benjamin, hang on, we have one question here.
My name's Trevor. I had a question. You mentioned that you worked with young women and empowering them with computer programming and stuff like that. How do you plan on continuing that work? Or do you have a plan to continue that work under the Taliban regime?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, hopefully, so far, a lot of people from around the world have sent me emails and contacted me through WhatsApp and Telegram, and they are just offering help, and they're asking how they can help us, even financially, or helping with the study materials, and even inviting some of our students abroad to continue their studies in computer science. So right now we are closed. The school is closed, and we are waiting for the Taliban for their decision for females. If they allow us to work, so we will work, and we will continue. And if they don't, currently we don't have an option, but we are working on an online system, because right now even we are helping them online. We don't have a very standard system right now, but we are helping them through Telegram channels, and we are providing them with study materials, with tutorials that we create, and we troubleshoot their projects and help them. We are still somehow, I can say that still we are active, and we are doing it, but not there's not any presence in this school, and it's closed.
All right. Hey, Benjamin, thank you, and Shefi, thank you, both of you.
You're welcome.
And Abdul, Sophia, Isabel, thank you. And we will be in touch. Really appreciate. Hey, thanks everybody. We'll see you.